Hey there, and welcome to the Traveling Homesteader and Gyroscope Farm. I'm Kathy, and today's video is going to be about basically a simplified version of emergency preparedness. And emergency preparedness can cover a lot of different things, so we'll have several videos on what we can do for that. But today, we're going to start out basically with a first aid kit. That's the simplest start to being prepared for an emergency. Sometimes we have different things that come up as an emergency, so our kits may look different. My basic first aid kit is really basic that everybody probably should have. You know, band-aids, antiseptic, in case somebody gets a cut. I got a cut the other day, needed some Neosporin and put on a band-aid, and I was ready to go again. There are those types of emergencies, and then there's the other type on the very opposite extreme, where people maybe need to leave their home in case of a fire, or there's a medical emergency where they're needing to go to the hospital because they got hurt so bad in some capacity. So there's a lot of different types of emergencies, but today I want to make sure that everyone has a start to a simple first aid kit, and then we can go from there. Now, my simple first aid kit looks like this, and I actually carry it around with me in my bag that I have for my computer stuffs and going to work. And essentially, like I'd mentioned before, it's just really basic and it's not fancy. So I have this little bag that I've gotten for free at some event that I went to. And then I just simply added some band-aids, some first aid cream, burn cream sort of thing. And then I'd also put in some ibuprofen. So these are actually a combination of things that I've gotten as samples through a marathon I went to, through a emergency preparedness fair I went to. So that's why these are a little bit different. If you don't have the ibuprofen in the single packets, you can just sort them through if you have ibuprofen or aspirin, or if you have them in a bottle, you can put them just as, I want to say a serving or two, but just one application or two applications of whatever that medicine has. Then this also has some Blistex along with some blister pads, so some moleskin. And then I ended up adding just some wet wipes because at any point we sometimes need to wash our hands. We suddenly get ourselves dirty in some way unexpectedly and we're like, oh, clean up. So these are some different things that you can have. I've also chosen to have different size band-aids since sometimes we have bigger cuts or smaller cuts depending on what happens. So this is my simple little kit. I've also included emergency or an immune with vitamin D in case I'm flying. Sometimes when I fly, I end up finding myself getting sick at one end or the other of my flight. And so having something like this helps my immune system a little bit. And also, we sometimes will pull a muscle, and I happen to find that there's this biofreeze that's really kind of nice to have on sore muscles. And so the nice thing is I can actually fit a fair amount in this little kit, and it didn't cost me much. And sometimes being self-reliant in the emergency department, it kind of helps to be more frugal with our money, because when there is a bigger emergency, as we probably all know, going to an emergency room or going someplace where it's going to cost more money, that's where we're going to want to make sure we're cared for appropriately. And this is something simple and easy that we can kind of accommodate ourselves in different ways. But that's just one simple little first aid kit. But as you may see behind me, I have a little bit bigger one. And when I was preparing to go in my RV, because I was working on an RV for a period of time, I wanted to make sure that my RV had something that I could go with in case, and just simple storage. And so in this case, this is maybe my bigger emergency kit. And this is something that you could have in your apartment, in your car, in like I had in my RV, or it could be someplace where it's just a little bit more stuff in case of a little bit more emergency than maybe what your little bag can do. And in this case, again, you're going to want to stick with the same basics. Band-aids, antiseptics, medications that apply to you. This is where it's important to make sure that this emergency kit suits you and your family. If you aren't able to take aspirin for one reason or another, don't have it in your emergency kit. If you're allergic to Band-Aid adhesive, make sure you get appropriate bandages so you don't get more hurt from having bandages with adhesive. So with that in mind, I happen to have just my simple Band-Aids that I got from Dollar Store. I like these because they're a fabric and they flex on me a little bit better. I tend to cut my hands a lot, and so these are good for me. But you may want to get something else that's maybe more straight, like these. Whichever kind you like, make sure you get enough that you can have a stash in here. So another thing that you might want to point out or have around are these little alcohol pads. And the alcohol pads will help you become sterile at your cut site and clean it out as best as you can, no matter where you are. Whether you're at the grocery store or at a restaurant or even out camping and you happen to have dirt on your hands or germs on your hands. These little alcohol wipes are really handy dandy. And they in this case, this is just a box of them in their individual servings, individual preparations. And so they come in pairs of 2, rip it in half, open it up, and you can apply it. So that's something that I found as helpful. But in addition to that, make sure you have these gauze pads and something to put the gauze pad on with. Because I've worked with animals and horses, I have a tendency to get this vet wrap. They come in all sorts of cool colors. Sometimes they vary in price. These are on sale, I think, for $1, but they sometimes go up to about $4. They come in different sizes. So this is the full size, and then they have a half size. And you can also see these on people who've given blood. So I think when you donate blood, they call this something else. I, because of my animal experience, call it vet wrap. So, but it's stretchy, it's elastic, and it sticks to people's arms, or in my case, also animal hair. And so this is really handy to have as well. But in addition to the basic first aid kit, I've also decided to add a little bit more. In my case, I have some handy dandy scissors. These are a little bit extra duty. I live in an area where we have our electricity through a co-op. Our electrical company is called Blatchley Lane Cooperative, and it's actually a really cool item because the owners of the company essentially are in part the people who use the service. And each year they try to have something to help with their cooperative members, have something to help them be more prepared, or help them be kind of more self-reliant. And so last year they ended up going through and offering up these emergency kits, and this was one of the items that they gave out to people. Along with that, they gave these handy dandy cups that are like thermos cups, and these are helpful too to have in your kit, because you never know kind of what sort of situation you're going to be in for liquids, and so this is handy. Something else you're going to want to think about is light and different types of light. And so I happen to get a couple of different options. In our family, we kind of like headlights. They come in handy for a variety of different sources. When I was doing some farm work, I ended up having this for when I'd go out early in the morning or late at night to work on the farm. My brother uses it to work on his car after work sometimes. So depending on where you go and what you do, you'll use this headlamp for different things. Now, whether you have this type of headlamp, or you have a flashlight like this, traditional flashlight, or even a regular a lantern like this, if you have whatever type of lighting you have, you should have the corresponding batteries. So in this case, my yellow flashlight needs double D batteries. And so I'm going to store these separate. I don't have my batteries in here because if you use them and store them in your kit, your battery life shortens and you'll suddenly find yourself without light. So make sure that you have your battery separate from your light, and then put it in as you need it. Because if it stays in, it could corrupt the batteries and essentially make your light not good. So make sure you have the corresponding batteries to go with the light that you have. And in another case, I have some extra lights that look like this. That are for my dogs. These are traditionally for bicycle tires, but I got some of these because I have 3 dogs, and I want to be able to put this on my dog at night in case I have to take them out, in case they take off, and I can find them with this light on. So, since I have animals, I also have a separate kit for my animals, but I have some of these in my regular kit so that I have this as I need to in case I don't grab the other. But some other things that you might want to have included are like a handy dandy screwdriver. In this case, this is kind of the one that has a couple of different heads. The regular flat head, the Phillips head, but then they also have some different sizes as you flip it over. So, and again, I kind of like to go on the cheap. I got this on sale at a local place for all of $1. That's a decent price for these. But usually they go for about 5 to 10, which aren't too bad. So within your kit, you can also consider having things like soap, shampoo, just little travel size items, lip balm, deodorant. I even have some plastic forks and spoons. In addition, I have, because I can eat with them, I end up bringing chopsticks. This, you can stir things, you can poke at it, you can do a lot of things with these. So that's why I also have chopsticks. But I also have some wet wipes. I also have Bengay. But something else is part of just about any emergency kit should also be one of these handy dandy emergency blankets. Now this is a fancy reflective blanket. And I like this because I know one time when I was going from Oregon to Virginia, I was moving across the United States, and I didn't have my blanket right available, and I had one of these in my glove compartment, and I grabbed it, and I was in the middle of Wyoming, and actually used this with a light blanket that I did find, and I was really warm. I was really surprised at how well this worked. And it had gotten really cold, and in the morning, I had about 6 inches of snow on the outside of my truck. So these are handy to have in a variety of situations. 1, because it's small, 2, they're light, and 3, they really do actually work. So that's why this is handy to have. And the last thing I'm going to point out is something that I kind of just found. As many of us have cell phones, and if you find yourself needing to charge it up for one reason or another, usually cell phones are good without service if you need to dial 911. But also, if you have kids that are needing to just be occupied and you have games on your cell phone, this little charger, and I'll put a little plug for 4 Patriots. I don't get paid from them right now or anything like that, but this was a handy item for me to have when I got it, and it's just a solar charger. And right now you can see the lights that it's actually charging with the light that I have coming in from my windows. And so this is a cell, and then it has on the back side a light, but it also has a means of hanging, so you can hang it someplace in case you need to. Now it comes also with a little carabiner and a compass, and if you need to, a little cord to charge in your car. So you can not only charge it through the sun, but you can charge it in your car as well. So that's why I think that this is pretty awesome to have, because it has a couple of different options where you don't have to use electricity if you don't have access to it. So these power cells, pretty good. So when we talk about emergency preparedness, remember that this is, you start small, like in our little kit that we started out with. So we start out small, then we can go bigger, and we can go even bigger later on. As we go and learn more about emergency preparedness, realize that, again, we don't want to spend a whole lot of money or a whole lot of time just because we don't want to worry ourselves on things that um, aren't um, going to necessarily happen, but we want to be able to plan to make sure that we have things that we might need to go. And you may also want to go check out your local um, government agency if you have a town hall, or if you have like a county organization that has information, because you can actually find some helpful information like these um, little packets through your county um, government agency. And if you ever get the chance, this little packet is a really handy item to have, because in this little book you can actually fill out a host of information on you, and make it specific to you. You can have some contact information. You can have who lives with you, your medications. So this is kind of cool. And if you have children, in this case, it even has a section for your kids to draw a plan of their school, so that if they have this in their bag, they can, if something happens that they need to leave school quickly, they look at their map and they say, oh, that's where Mom said to go, or that's where Dad said he'd meet me. So these little pocket planners are pretty awesome. And I happen to get this through the Oregon Office of Emergency Management. So that's something that you can get to, and it's, in my case, Oregon.gov. But you can probably have something similar through Louisiana or New York. So these are pretty handy to have. So with that in mind, get your first little emergency kit started, your own little personal one, and then maybe build to this size, and then we can build together a bigger one. So come check us out at gyroscopefarm.com, where you can find more information on emergency preparedness, and come subscribe if you haven't already to our YouTube channel, The Traveling Homesteader, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.